Welcome back to the Faith and Finances Podcast. This is episode 189. And, when it comes to personal finance, wisdom, and principles, a lot of it can be common sense, but that doesn't really solve all the problems, does it? I can say, spend less, save more. Thank you, Tim. Brilliant. All my financial problems are washed away. Wonderful. Why isn't it that easy? Well, it's really comes down to our behavior. We tend to be our own worst enemies in this area and in other areas. And our behavior stems from our thinking as well. So today, instead of going down the rabbit hole into all the various ways that we think, because of the tens of millions of people who overspend, I'm sure they have other drivers and different ways that they think that bring them to that point. So what we're going to do today on this topic, how to stop overspending, is we're going to go right to the point where it's about to happen, look at what facilitates overspending and how to stop that. Speaking of other subjects and, going down the rabbit hole of how we think and such, if you have a question, a financial question, you'd like to know maybe the biblical perspective or God-honoring approach to your question, feel free to send me an email, timrosentv@gmail.com. I'll give you a Christ-honoring biblical answer or response and today's application as well. How to stop overspending. Most transactions, we're coming right off of Christmas. So let me ask you, how did you purchase most, if not all, of your Christmas gifts, all of your purchases? Now, I know that almost daily for a week or so, there were boxes ready at our front door, courtesy of Amazon. So you can just sit there and click away. Well, you don't use cash, do you? And at the store, at the malls, the majority of the purchases that we make, even beyond Christmas, are made with either credit card or a debit card. In and of themselves, not a bad thing. But there's a problem. In that process, do you feel anything? Do you feel anything negative? Well, generally, no, because what that process does is it takes the pain out of the equation. We don't feel pain, and many times quite the opposite, we can feel a rush. Researchers at Stanford found that when you see something that you want to buy, or you're online and you see photos of something that you want to buy, a region of your brain with dopamine receptors is activated. What happens with that? It needs to be satisfied. Now, we can stop right there. In that moment, behavioral economists refer to that as being in the hot state. Your dopamine receptors are activated. Boom, boom, boom. Oh, I see it. I want it. And this spills over into other areas of our lives as well when we see something and we're tempted. But when that happens, and you have all of the feelings and you want to bring it to fruition and click the buy button, that's the point where mistakes are made, because you're not perhaps thinking rationally. Actually, in a hot state, we're not thinking rationally. We just want to bring it to a conclusion, get the rush, get the thrill. And this is some folks. And if that's not you, if shopping doesn't spin your dials and it's just something that you have to do, the truth remains that in swiping the card, the pain point is removed. You don't feel anything unless, or up until, next month when you get the bill. Or if it's a debit card, you wonder, where did my money go? And that's painful. So both scenarios, overuse of the credit card, which then creates a bigger bill. If you do not have the budget, the cash to pay the bill in full once you get it, then you are creating debt, which creates stress, creates bondage. And if you've experienced that, I don't need to tell you that. But it's later that we feel the pain. If you have paid interest to a credit card company, Hopefully that hasn't just become routine for you and you've accepted that. You look at that and you think, man, $100 in interest, because nowadays interest is 29, 30%. You're paying a company who doesn't need your money. I think you and I need that money more than they do. That's $100 that you don't have working for you. And it's a penalty. A penalty for what? For how we've abused the credit card, and now we're stacking on debt. Even if you don't have debt, let's say that you are using a debit card. And for the most part, there's reasons why we do use a card. There's a degree of safety. I get that. There's less fraud. If someone got a hold of your checking account number, they can perhaps wipe out your actual dollars in your bank account. So with credit cards, you do have some fraud protection. However, if we tell ourselves that as giving ourselves permission to go ahead and use credit cards, again, how easy is it to overspend? Let me paint a different picture. Let's look more then at the solution, at what facilitates, and that's using the credit card. Now, you may be thinking, well, yeah, the envelope system and use cash. With prices at the grocery store, just the other day, I know we spent $172 and we didn't take home much. And I'm not really comfortable with my wife bringing several $100s, even in the self-checkout or what have you, and showing cash and such. And I'm not for a cashless society. There's a time and place, and perhaps we ought to use more. So I get it that it's easier to use. It's a little harder to take care of everything via cash. So then we have to be better, and we have to put in some stop guards here to keep us from overspending or using credit cards. But I want you to think about something. If you were down to your last $100 in the bank account, and now you have that as cash, and you went to the store, how likely are you to part with those last dollars? Now, of course, it would be a matter of need or want. A lot of overspending is done by want and the rationalization, that the conversations we have in our own mind as to why we want that. However, if it's your last $100 and you were buying something that was frivolous or not needed, now, how quick would you be to part with those dollars? No, you'd really pause, because there's the pain factor. I'm actually parting with something that I value. What am I going to do when I'm out of dollars? Can you see the problem? When you swipe, you're not doing the math. Most of us aren't. Well, that was $172. Well, how much have you already swiped this week, this month? Part of the problem also is in overspending is, economists understand this. It's baked into the books on economics. Consumer demand. While we can be indifferent about things about like peanut butter and jelly and such like that, the basic known rule is more is better. Economists know that. And we're programmed to have the outlook that more is better. If two grocery items, identical, you can buy two for $5, but you walk in the store and there's a special. You can get three now for the same money. What do? You get three, whether you need it or not. It's just baked into our thinking. More is better. Now, especially when it comes to groceries, and this is a bad time because of inflation, yeah, we're watching every dollar, and it's not, every dollar isn't buying as much as it used to. But we have to guard against that mentality of more is better, because doesn't it spill over into the unnecessary items, be it shoes or just things, whatever you scroll and say, hey, I'd like that, leather goods, I don't know, whatever it may be for you, stuff that we like. We like stuff. And it's very well known that given that more is better, we start collecting stuff. We start, our houses get cluttered. And so our garages get cluttered. How many two-car garages can still fit two cars? Or do we have our stuff in there? This is known in the storage industry. In the storage business, it's a $34 billion a year industry. They know we like stuff. So can you see that our being programmed or our thinking more is better, that can lead us to overspending? And it's important to keep in mind the biblical truth. He that loves silver will not be satisfied with silver, nor he that loves abundance with increase. This is vanity. Ecclesiastes 5:10. Yeah, it'd be nice for us to just stop in what a behavioral economist refer to as that hot moment where we're just really not thinking or we're rationalizing. We're certainly not doing the math, and we overspend that. You know, if it's the case that we're buying because we believe that it'll bring us some satisfaction or some happiness, the truth is it's not. It's not going to bring us happiness. More will not make us happy. All right, so how do we prevent overspending if this is an issue in your household? First step, mutually agree with your spouse on monthly amounts per category. You've got shopping. You've got coffee runs or dining out. You have entertainment. Then you have just buying stuff. I mean, shoes don't fall in the category of groceries unless you go to a big membership store like BJ's, Costco, Sam's Club. It's going to perhaps show up on your bank statement as groceries if you're looking at one of those budget apps where the bank tells you where your money's going. But no, shoes, books, electronics don't fall under categories of groceries. So we want to look at the different categories where our money is going and permit yourself. It's called a budget, but some people, that's a bad word. No, it's great. It's in that you are agreeing on an amount to spend. So it's a spending plan. And then write it down. And if you're going to the grocery store, use something like this. If your budget, let's say, is $800 a month for grocery shopping. Ladies, keep this in your purse. Guys, keep it in your pocket, your nightstand, or whatever. Flip the page. All right, it's the beginning of the month. First trip here in January, $800. And what did we spend here today? $172. All right. Now I've got $628 left. You do a little bit of math. Boom. Now you're starting being mindful. All right, sands of the hourglass are slipping through. The amount that we have left is decreasing. I'm going to be a little bit more careful what I put in my cart. Be a good consumer and not just blindly buy whatever I'm going to buy regardless of the consequences. So the next time you're at the store, all right, we have $628. There's 3 more weeks left. All right, well, look, that's about $200. I think we're doing good. And just write it down. The key is looking at it and seeing it. Because when we use a debit card, when we use a credit card, we're not seeing a thing. Can you see how that leads us to overspend? Secondly, learn to be content and grateful if over buying and over purchasing is an event that's happening in your household. At the moment of considering a purchase, stop. God allows us that moment to stop and ask yourself, is this a need or a want? If it's a need, what's the impact on our finances? Is it in the budget or do I wait till later? Pause and think. If it's a want, ask yourself, how are you going to actually pay for this? Putting it on the card doesn't magically bring it into your house without consequences. You're going to pay for it later. So sometimes that rationale at that moment is, worry about it later. Stop that thinking because you're not going to like the consequences of later. How will you actually pay for it if you're going to pay for it through cash? Learning to be content and grateful. Paul the Apostle, he even shared with us and encouraging us that he learned to be content. Not that I speak of respect of want, for I have learned in whatsoever state I am therewith to be content. Philippians 4:11. So we know what facilitates, just the easy swiping. A budget written out and keeping it with you is going to help you pause from overspending. You may not just switch to cash and use the envelope system in today's society. I get it. But when you have an agreed amount and it helps you track how much you're spending, how much you have left, honor the Lord, have more peace in your finances, avoid the trap of getting into debt, and avoid the trap of running out of money. Hope this has been a help to you. Feel free to email me, timrosentv@gmail.com. We'll see you next time.